Welcome to Grit, the Real Estate Growth Mindset podcast, hosted by Brian Charlesworth, founder of Sisu. Sisu provides growth automation software for real estate. You'll hear stories from real estate thought and technology leaders, team owners, and brokers on how they grew their business in a rapidly changing industry. You'll learn how to transform your brokerage and teams into a high-performing and analytics-driven business so you have a new, durable, competitive advantage against disruption in your market. So let's get right into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Grit Podcast. I'm Brian Charlesworth. I'm the founder of the Sisu, and I'm the host of the show. And today I'm here with two amazing ladies who have built an incredible business. This business is Zoocasa. And it's a really interesting story because they actually run this business just like a team. And it actually is a team, but it's a team in a different sense than most of us think of real estate teams. So I think this is a great option for solo agents across the country. And what these guys have done is amazing because they're getting results. And so I want to introduce Brittany and Carrie from Zoocasa. I'm just going to let you guys take a few minutes and introduce yourselves, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds great, Brian. Thanks for having us. Obviously, we're excited to talk to you. We're excited to talk about what's happening here at Zoocasa. And so for those who don't know, we started as kind of a brokerage in Southern Ontario about 10 years ago. We kind of grew our platform and our agents, but wanted to expand more and started looking about 3 years ago for a partner. And that partner came in the form of eXp Realty. So we had, kind of lead generation and lead flow really kind of far outside of our boundaries in Ontario, and wanted to kind of really extend the opportunity we could get not only to grow our business, but to reach agents kind of more coast to coast. And eXp, kind of was a great fit. And so we sold to eXp in 2022. And, one of the things that I think we're most proud of is the way that we've been able to integrate and work and kind of maintain some of the momentum and growth that we've had at Zoocasa, really even as being kind of a wholly owned subsidiary. And Brittany here has the honorary title of being our very first agent at Zoocasa. And then
Wow.
She's since grown to be our director of sales. So Brittany, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian, for having us. And yeah, thanks, Carrie. So a little bit about myself. Yeah, sales director at Zoocasa, and really excited to be in this role. I've held this position since I believe it's now 2017, 2018. So I'm a licensed broker as well. I'm still an active agent, which I feel really helps me keep a pulse on exactly what's happening in our market. Started out solo though, right? Tried a few different teams in the beginning and realized a team environment was really actually where I thrived. It can be a lonely business and a lonely industry. So kind of being around other like-minded individuals and leaders and top producers was where I found my space. So door knocking wasn't my thing. It wasn't my strength, but I did like connecting with leads and with clients who wanted that real estate conversation. So my turning point personally for me in my career was when I had hired and trained actually my first showing specialist when I was an agent. And I discovered how much I really enjoyed coaching and training her from beginning to end. She had just gotten her license, no bad habits, and just I kind of really fell in love with that process. So that's again that new spark for helping agents succeed was similar to that excitement of the spark that I felt when I was first licensed and started working with first-time home buyers. So that was really exciting for me. And now today, fast forward a few years, and I'm helping lead the team of over 230 agents in the Accelerator program. And my main focus and my main role is creating an environment where the agents really feel supported and challenged and equipped to thrive. So a little bit about me.
Awesome. So you said 230 agents. There aren't many teams in North America, let's say, with 230 agents. I want to dive into that more in a minute, but I would like to go back in time to how you guys actually got started. You guys are based in Toronto, right?
We are, yeah, both based in the GTA.
Okay, so obviously Zillow does not exist there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys actually started as a leads platform or a brokerage that provides leads to your agents. Let's talk about how you guys got started.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a bit of a unique origin story. So Zoocasa.com was actually a portal developed by one of our large telco corporations here in Canada called Rogers. They had developed it, kind of as a misguided way to understand when people were interested in moving as a way to sell them cable and phone packages. So that business obviously is fraught for many reasons. And ultimately, they had paid a lot of money to set up this portal. It had listings. And again, they were trying to do some lead capture to sell cable and phone packages. And they were like, we can't make this business work. So they kind of sold it in a fire sale. Fast forward 2015, my, kind of partner and the founder originally, Lauren Ha, she picked up with a small group of investors, picked up the platform. And then over the course of 2015, 2016, really started to build it out as a brokerage. So recognizing that, that digital asset and that lead generation engine actually really had a lot of value, but not for telcos, but more for a brokerage. So as a real estate agent, as a brokerage, built it up. And that was where our origin story started. So we have been a licensed brokerage for 10 years and celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. So that kind of from some folly came this greatness. So that's kind of a fun way to begin.
So that being said, how many leads do you guys generate per month today?
Yeah. So we generate leads not only from our owned and operated properties. So in 2022, when we were acquired from EXP, we were acquired in part because of our lead qualification systems and our coaching systems, but also from our engineering capabilities. So we, since being acquired, also run exprealty.com now and also run exprealty.ca. And we've got a couple of new sites in the pipeline to also launch. So we've really tried to bring kind of that engineering and digital product kind of technology first focus in terms of lead gen, but also our mid-funnel lead qualification and then to agent coaching, that handoff and that baton handoff, we also discovered once joining EXP was just really actually quite unique. All of our inside sales our inside sales team are onshore. They are fully versed in North American real estate. We, kind of nurture our calls and our leads probably much longer in the cycle than I think a lot of other either brokerages or teams do. So we kind of hold on to that relationship until they're really ready to meet with an agent. And that whole kind of system, that patented system that we've developed over the last decade has really led us to much higher conversion rates so that we've also partnered with external lead flow portals, real estate companies, mortgage companies, both in Canada and the US, to bring some of that lead flow in and actually make it available exclusively to EXP agents, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. So nurturing leads, yeah, that's pretty important these days. In 2020,
Yeah.
2020, 2021, 22, not so much, right? You could get a phone call and you could have someone under contract in 24 hours. Now, what is the average time now? And I know you guys know your data, you guys know your stats. So I want to dive into that. You guys have been Sisu customers, and I know you guys have your systems dialed in. But how long is the average person, average lead taking now from coming in to the funnel to actually closing?
Well, I mean, the one thing I would say is it's a tale of many cities. So, if there's a team or an agent listening who's like, hey, I'm in Salt Lake City, the market I'm finding is maybe a bit muted this year. How long do I have to nurture? What is my average, right? Well, I can tell you if you're, say, in Alberta or if you're in the Maritimes in Canada, you'll have a much different outcome in terms of the time, they're still getting bidding wars out there. Things are, signs are going on the lawn, things are selling within a couple of days versus, say, also Southern Ontario, for example, this year has been extremely muted. We've had double-digit declines in sales, kind of quarter over quarter, year over year. So, the one thing I would say is as we operate in every province and every state, it really is kind of not surprisingly, real estate is local. And so I would say, the thing about nurturing, if I bring it back to nurturing, is that, expect that you are going to have to do the fundamentals to build a relationship and trust with every single individual that you speak with or that you meet with to become their trusted partner in real estate. And if you go in with that mindset, then you may be pleasantly surprised when somebody turns around and converts in the next 30 days. But I think every real estate agent has to go in, and every salesperson has to go in thinking, okay, I'm trying to build actually a relationship with this individual and kind of show up as how do I bring value to this relationship? How do I show up as my authentic self? And if I continue to do that in every way that I nurture my pipeline, then you're going to end up with success. And so I think, real estate ebbs and flows. I've been in this business for over 6 years and I'm still waiting for the typical real estate year. I started a few months before the pandemic and then, everything.
I don't know what a typical real estate year means.
Exactly. Everybody, every year it's like, this is going to be the one.
I think you've had
2025 was supposed to be the one.
I think you've had typical real estate years because typical real estate years are just the ups and downs, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that again, if you go back to what are the kind of fundamentals of thinking about building your business, right? Any sales pipeline, it's not unique to real estate, is if I think about how do I actually want to build relationships with my clients, and that having that success, I think then you're able to weather any ups and downs of any market.
I think you guys have such a cool model. My belief, and I've shared this publicly many times, but I don't think a new agent could come into real estate today and be successful on their own. And, there are a lot of great teams across the US and Canada, and I work with thousands of them, but they're not everywhere. And so I love that you guys basically, my understanding, and I'll let you guys share more about this, but my understanding is that you guys are basically a team that's all across North America. Not everyone has to be in the same location. And you provide the technology, the systems, the leads, all the stuff that an agent needs so that the agent can focus on selling. So is that correct first? And then I'll ask my question.
Yeah. So you are in fact correct. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
That's
well,
good.
we do focus a lot on newer agents, but we have a wide range. Sometimes it's agents coming back to the industry that they've been away for a while, and kind of they maybe let their sphere of influence or kind of their personal sphere lax a little bit. Maybe it's they've relocated, so they've built a really great local business, in Toronto, but then they're relocating to New York City. So like there's kind of a real, maybe a mixed bag. And, I'll hand it over to Brittany because I think she'll be able to talk a little bit more about kind of the types of agents that we see.
Well, that's absolutely accurate, right? Our avatar that we've really been able to continue to refine and define over the last year, 2 years, has been exactly that. We maybe thought originally, is it the brand new agent or is it the agent that's kind of trying to get back into production? And I think that the one common theme is that their business just needs a jump start. They need someone to hold them accountable. They need the systems in place because they might not have the time, the energy, or the knowledge at this point to understand which platforms are worth investing in, which ones are truly going to move the needle in my business. So when we look at what we offer within our Agent Accelerator program, it truly does tick all of those boxes. It is a no-brainer for someone that just says, listen, I need someone to hold me accountable and I need to get into business and into production and to be able to develop a predictable income in the next 2 years. That's our avatar.
I love the word predictable income. That's, as the CEO of Sisu, I talk about that all the time. It's like, do you want to build a predictable income? I can show you how. You can tell me how much you want to make, and I can help you. I can show you how to get there, right? And I can hold you accountable to that. So I love that. I'd love to dive into the results you guys are getting because my understanding, and Carrie or Brittany, I'm not sure, Brittany, with you being over sales, maybe you want to address this, but what is the average agent doing with leads, and what are your agents doing with leads? Can we talk about that for a minute as far as success with leads? So I think we had a conversation a few weeks back that your typical agent converts 2 out of every 100 leads they get. Is that correct?
So I think that's the interesting part. So I'll jump in and then I'm going to hand off to Brittany because I really want her to talk about some of the systems and how, we've used Sisu Premier to actually start to set some of those goals. So the first thing we do is to start to set goals with our agents in terms of where do they want to be. And then, that idea of backwards engineering into, okay, what are the activities that you need to do? But since we have introduced Sisu Premier in Q1, we introduced it late into Q1. You're right on point, Brian. Our agents were converting about 2% of every leads that we gave them. Those were converting into a deal. Fast forward to Q2, that went to just under 4%. And I'm pleased to report that Q3 year to date, we're looking at just under 7% conversion rate. The fact that we have really kind of stayed, we're doing a big recruiting push now into our Agent Accelerator program, which is what our team is called. But, for the most part, for Q1, Q2, and the first half of Q3, we kind of kept it around that 230 to 250 agent count because we really wanted to kind of introduce some of these new tools and methods and processes on how we were going to kind of roll out our coaching, because it is unique. Like you said, our team is unique in the sense that we're 100% remote. We're across 2 countries, hopefully, soon to be in every province and every state. And so that there is some complexity around that. For sure. And especially being able to scale that kind of coaching and training across so many different agents at one time.
So Carrie, something that you said that I think is critical. First thing you do is you set goals with your agents.
Yeah.
And then you reverse engineer. Here's what it takes. So talking about building a predictable income, right? I think a piece that a lot of people forget on that is, and I'm sure you guys are doing this, but when you're setting goals with your agents, make sure that you know why those goals are important to them. Like, what is their why? Is it because their family? Is it because they want to invest? Is it because they want lifestyle? What is it? Because if you can't figure that out, it's hard to keep them motivated, right? It's hard to actually, when you hold them accountable, have them actually appreciate it and get the results. So I think it's also important that we as leaders get their permission to help them achieve those goals when they set those goals, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, Brian, it's not us setting the goals for them. We know that every agent is going to have their own different big why. Not every agent that comes into the program or any agent out there necessarily wants to be the top producer. Some of them want maybe a little bit more harmony in their life. I mean, the work-life balance is funny because that's, I feel like, non-existent for maybe people that have children, people that are caregivers to their parents, people that have other businesses, right? Not everyone will have the same goal. So it's not us telling you coming into this program, you should want to make X, because to Carrie's point as well, we're across multiple different markets. We could have an average price point of north of $1 million in the GTA, while we have a significant difference across provinces and different states, right? So it's, to your point, it's extremely important to understand, why is this important to you? And there's no judgment, but what we are going to do is we're going to hold you accountable. And I think that that's a really big piece when you kind of started this next section of asking us, what does the Agent Accelerator do that might be different than your average agent? It is really looking at those daily activities, right? And Sisu helps us with that, for setting those goals of maybe they just want to do a deal a month. That might be one of the most common responses I sometimes hear. I just want to do a deal a month. And they might just be starting out in their business. And then others might come in and say, you know what, I need to 10x what I did last year. How can I get there within this program? And that's an exciting plan that we lay out for them. And if you like, we can kind of go into sort of what does a day in the life look like for an Agent Accelerator, and sort of how that all
Yeah, let's do that, because I love that you're like, and I agree with this so much. Every team owner should do this. It's like, and some people are like, I want someone to close at least X if they're going to be on my team. But most people have different goals, right? And so you said someone might want to do one a month. Someone may want to 10X their business. They may want to do 5 or 6 a month, right?
So overall, our goal is to get them into production. And again, they're approaching us for that, right? They're saying, how do I get into production? How do I build a repeatable business, a predictable business, right? Whether it is just that one deal a month, or once every couple months, or a deal, throughout the year as they see fit. So one of the things that Carrie had suggested and mentioned at the beginning is goal setting is important. From day one, we talk about it, and from day 2, opening up their Sisu, they're setting their goals, they're putting in their numbers. And I think one really important thing too to mention is that it's great for the coaches to be able to say and revisit each month. Hey, is this goal still important to you? Is this still a driving force in your business? And I think one of the areas that we're able to really focus on that is our daily huddles. So I think that this is potentially unique based on how I communicate with other teams and other brokerages across the board. But daily huddles were introduced COVID times where communication was it wasn't the driving.
If you've been enjoying Grit, please help us continue to grow the channel by leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with a friend. Now back to Grit.
It wasn't the driving piece in the team. It was, we're going to get together quarterly in person. We're going to be able to do those kinds of meetups. But during COVID, it really became extremely important to be really strong in our communication. So that's when it all started. And it's been continuing on since then. So a day in the life of an average Agent Accelerator, they are showing up, cameras on, ready to engage Monday through Thursday for 15 minutes, because we want to hold true to the purpose of a huddle. We're not here to waste time. They're extremely purposeful, and there's a reason for each and a theme to each day, each week, and each month. So if I look at sort of how Sisu is included with that, we start off with a monthly challenge, whether it's appointments set, appointments met, number of conversations. We focus on that, and then we're able to break it down. So what that looks like on a daily basis is on Mondays, we focus on objection handling. So we all know that there's only a set number of objections. There's never going to be a new objection that myself or my colleague Anthony Tomasoni hasn't heard before. They're pretty common across North America, I would say. And we bring those front and center every Monday. We say, what have you heard in the last week, either directly or more importantly, what are the objections that are living rent-free in your mind? What are the ones that you feel you're going to receive that you actually haven't received, but you're almost nervous to pick up the phone because that's what you think a lead is going to say? We handle that on Mondays by starting the week. And the other thing that we couple with that, because it can get a little bit, people are a little bit anxious to kind of say, this is what I'm hearing. We start off by sharing wins. And that really sets the positivity off and the right mindset for the week. Because as I mentioned, this can be a challenging industry. It can be a lonely business. But when we get together and there's 240 cameras on, Brian, and that's how we're starting the week and starting the day, sharing wins and objection handling together, it just really sets the tone.
Yeah, totally agree. I have a remote team myself, and all 50 of us get on the phone, get on a Zoom every Monday morning. We start it with wins and gratitude, right? So I love that you guys are doing this. It's fun for me. I had somebody message me this morning actually on Facebook Messenger, and she had met with one of my salespeople, and she said, he told me that I would double my business this year, guaranteed. And I said, well, it is true if you go all in on Sisu, most of our customers will double their business year over year by going all in. But it's not guaranteed. You have to put in the work, right? So, but you guys are essentially doing that. You've gone from, by changing the way, and you really only got Sisu in Q1, is that right?
Q1, yeah.
Okay.
February rolled out to the agents. Yep.
You've gone from 2 per agent, 2% conversion to 4% to 7%.
Yeah, that's right. In such a short period of time.
In 3 quarters, which is unbelievable. So
unbelievable.
Can you speak to why? Like, what is the real thing making that difference? And maybe you've already spoken to it with what you just shared.
Well, I think, if I can grab that first, one of the things that Brittany and the coaches are so good about doing is, what are those repeatable habits? Brittany talked about it already. What are those objections that, you might not even hear, but you've kind of made up as an excuse in your mind as to why this person isn't going to meet with you or why this person doesn't want to work with you. And so, I was just on a conversation this morning that it was like, do the hard things until they don't become hard anymore. And those are the type of repeatable things that we are trying to hold them accountable to every single day. And it's the consistency. If we show up for our agents consistently and we show up with the same guidance and the same reinforcing messages, that consistency that we're showing to them, we're hoping is going to then reflect back to us as well as their business. So coming in, reinforcing the messages, coming in every day, holding their hands, using these tools, giving them the best in class coaching as well as guidance and training, the amount of volume that we do. So we have, while we have 240 agents in our Agent Accelerator program, we have given leads to over 4,000 agents at EXP this past year. And so from current year to date, we've had about 145,000 leads come into our platform. We convert that at about a 43% to agent appointments. So that's over 62,000 appointments that we have given to EXP agents. And so when you're talking about that volume, like Brittany said, there is no objection we have not heard. There is no conversation we have not had. And so, that vast amount of experience, we just want to pour into the agents that are working with us and saying like, hey, we've been there, we've heard it, we know what you're saying to yourself, but it doesn't have to be that way. We know you can grow your business in any market condition. If you follow these patterns, if you use these tools, you are going to be successful. And to your point, you are going to double your business if you do the work, do the hard things until they are not hard anymore.
I met with somebody yesterday that has doubled their business the last 3 years. And these are three of the, your average person thinks, oh, these are the 3 worst years in real estate ever. Right. So,
yeah.
So it's just a matter of doing the work, putting in the focus, running your business like a business, right? Brittany, you were going to add something to that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it does sound simple, but part of, real estate is simple. It's not easy. But one of the things that I feel makes a big difference is where agents are just showing up. Because again, the way that they show up here every morning is how they show up out there. And it is not a surprise that the agents that we see that are consistently showing up every day to these huddles, committed to staying close to the program and to the platforms that we offer them, are going to see the most success, right? So on any given Tuesday, we have a coach sharing a specific piece of coaching wisdom throughout the group. Because as we had kind of talked about, we've got for our 240 agents, 4 coaches, right? So while you're paired up with one coach, we want to make sure that we can maximize the knowledge and the wisdom and the expertise that they have to the entire team. So why would we just keep that for one agent? And agents learn in different ways too, from different personalities. They have different connections. So that's why we've decided to open that up. Another piece on Wednesdays is we feature our own agents from the Agent Accelerators, and that really allows them to form collaborations in a smaller community within our ecosystem. So we find new relationships budding. And again, that's another piece that keeps them close in the program. And finally, on Thursdays, one big piece that we found is probably one of the agents' favorite huddle dates is we review tape with them. So we are going through our system. We are seeing who is having successful calls, and we actually track it back sometimes from finding a successful deal. Okay, what did that first phone call sound like? And my favorite ones are where we find a deal that was recently closed and they received that lead 2 years ago or 1 year ago, because the ones that they received 1 month ago, anybody can take a layup, anybody can sort of move, like check those easy boxes. But it's the ones where the agents really drove down and double down on the daily activities. That's not giving up. That's just because someone didn't answer you the first day that you received that lead that you just said, oh, 3 tries and we'll see if they reach out back to me. It's all about that not so exciting, not so glamorous daily activity of showing up, making your calls, and just, doing the work.
Yeah, it goes back to how we started this conversation with nurturing, right? I mean, in many cases, it takes 9 to 12 months or maybe sometimes 2 years. But if you keep doing the nurturing, you will ultimately be the agent.
Yeah, I think of how many amazing stories I've heard, at Zoocasa, at EXP, broadly in this industry about how ultimately the industry has changed their lives, right? I'm sure in some ways it started out for you when you started your business. It certainly was for me. Zoocasa was a startup. We scaled it. We got acquired. Like that same habit building, showing up, doing the work. But so many of these amazing success stories and life-changing success stories start out with, I made 100 calls a day. I was consistent. I did the work. I showed up like it was a job, and I took myself seriously. And I was like, I'm going to do this, right? Setting those goals, breaking it down into those bite-sized pieces, and then being consistent. It isn't magic, although sometimes it feels like it as you start to see the success, right? As you know, no overnight success is overnight.
Yeah, exactly. 99% of business owners go through challenges and struggles and the grind, and most people who are not business owners would have quit, which is why they're not business owners.
Absolutely.
And so everyone looks at the glamour and sees the wins and sees that you sold your company and sees this, but what they don't see is the grit that you put in every day to get there,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
frustration and the challenges and all the stuff that so many people would run from. But as entrepreneurs, we face those every single day, right?
Yeah.
Which
I
is why this
remember
podcast
joining.
is called the Grit Podcast.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Well played, Brian. Well played. I remember joining Zoocasa and then not, kind of a few months later being in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, having, all of these faces stare back at me of, kind of terrified people. We were all living in our houses, locked in, transactions in Ontario and certain Canada went down to zero, and then just trying to like, how do you keep people motivated, right? So, as we say, like the market will always go up and down, right? But we showed up. That is where we got really good at daily communication. I did a detailed outreach to our team every single day for 190 days. Didn't matter if it was the weekend, and said like, things are going to be okay. This is what's happening out there. This is what you can do to keep yourself, mentally well, physically well. We're all in this together, and did that kind of consistently. And that consistent communication, that's part of the reason that even since we've been acquired, our leadership team hasn't changed. We all still believe in this mission. We all are celebrating in the growth and the evolution of what Zoocasa has become. And I would say even more so than ever, we are so excited and so all in. I mean, Brittany's been here since day one and still here through all of the ebbs and flows, every single market condition, every single, kind of crazy thing that we've thrown her way. and we're aiming to have over 300 agents by the end of September.
That's awesome. So, Carrie, you said the market will always go up and down, and I agree with that. But if you're running your business in the way we just discussed, your market will not always go up and down, right?
That's correct. Yeah, 100%. And one of the best parts about having some of these conversations is taking a moment. And as I said to you when we first started talking, we'd been so head down, focused on growing this business. We hadn't kind of put our eyes up to see like, oh, wow, in context, as you said off the top, we're running one of the biggest teams in the industry. We've done close to 600 deals year to date, 400 million in sales volume. These are some really great numbers, and we're seeing, kind of that consistent growth, that consistent success. And so it really did take a moment to pause. And because we have been so consistent, the national average in Canada of overall transactions from Q1 to Q2, normally a spring market would go up, transactions went down.
Mm-hmm.
Our deals went up 84%.
Wow, 84%.
So
congratulations.
That speaks to, if you put in the work, if you are consistent, it doesn't matter if the market fluctuates, you'll always be able to bring your value.
Let's talk a little bit about the difference between the market and we're gonna, for the sake of time, we're gonna wrap up soon, but what is the difference between the market in US and Canada today? You probably have a better taste for that than anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say obviously there's some differences just based on, kind of overall, like as Brittany said off the top, kind of price points and inventory, days of market. But really, people get married, people want to buy their first home, people have kids, people get divorced. Unfortunately, people die. Like homes have to be bought and sold. And
Mhm.
actually, those fundamentals are the same everywhere. And, Canada and the US are inexplicably, connected for a number of reasons. But, we have MLSs up here in Canada. We have the MLS system in the US. The availability of data for home buyers and sellers and those searching online is so ubiquitous and available everywhere. It is about how do you stand out as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a real estate, as a realtor. to say, how am I going to come and show up every day and bring value, bring my expertise, bring my knowledge? How do I can continue to level up and, bring that consistency and build those trust and relationships with my clients? And I think that's the same no matter what market you're in.
Yeah, well said. Brittany, being a sales leader of over 200 agents, 300 agents as of next quarter, I'd love to hear some advice from you for other team owners. And it could be around how you're recruiting, it could be around whatever, but what is the one thing, and it may be the way that you're running your sales meetings every week, but what is the one thing that everyone has to do to get the consistency from their agents?
We have to focus on what we can control, right? And I think it's fairly similar how we speak. Our clients are our agents, right? That's in terms of how our agents show up for their clients. Our agents are our clients. So how can we create the environment where they feel supported and encouraged and challenged to grow, if that is what they're looking for? And we address those ideas up front. But I think that my one piece of advice would absolutely be focus on what we can control, which is the environment. And again, when I refer to environment, we're 100% virtual. We don't physically meet up in person. So to create protected, consistent windows where you are showing up as the leader and leading by example, I find has been a really big driving piece. So that is why we include our coaches in our daily huddles. Everyone is showing up. It's not just, yep, that's for the agents. We're all showing up. We're all cameras on, contributing, sharing not only wins, but the challenges as well. So I think that that's one piece where sometimes it's exciting. The pieces where, oh, this agent just closed their first, $2-3 million deal. Those are exciting. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just as important to focus on the brand new agent or the agent that's just getting back into production that maybe closed their first mobile home sale. And that is a big deal for them, right? So I think that it's important to not only celebrate the wins, but to also share and create a culture around the challenges so that everyone feels comfortable jumping in. Brian, I have never personally sat in on a mastermind where over 200 agents are present and we break it into 2 windows, so to accommodate for different time zones, but where agents are comfortable to have cameras on and will jump in and will say, raise a hand and say, this is what I think. A lot of times in a lot of meetings that I might jump in on at different brokerages to kind of see what's happening is cameras are all off. You jump into a sea of black and you don't really know who's invested and joining. So I would say different. We have to lead by example. So we don't care if you're in the middle of a workout. We don't care if you're in the middle of bringing your kids to school. It's a part of life. And it's interesting because one piece of feedback that I had in the last quarter was from a new agent that joined, and they said, oh, daily huddles, that's when I take my kids to school. And I said, as long as you're able to safely focus on the road or however you're getting your kids to school, we encourage you to show up. And her feedback was, you know what, my kids are actually asking now each morning, like, oh, is it time for the daily huddle? And it becomes a part of their life, right? And it has to be seen as, I get to be a part of this. And the buy-in comes from them setting their goals and us being excited for them to hit them too. So I'd say that would be my advice.
Yeah, super, super important to create an environment that helps people win and a systematized thing that builds a predictable income. So love that for you guys. It's fun. It's been really fun for me to get to know you guys. For all our listeners out there, I'm sure this was fun for you to hear how these guys have built this. And if anybody needs to reach you guys, what's the best way?
Yeah, they can go on to zoocasa.com/Agent Accelerator to find out more information. We're at Zoocasa on Instagram. We are zoocasa.com is the website. There's lots of ways to kind of get in touch with us, whatever platform you may be on. If you are out there and you're an EXP agent, both Brittany and myself are on Slack. You can reach us that way. And we're find us on LinkedIn. We're everywhere. We're everywhere you need us to be.
Okay, Zoocasa, Zoocasa. Zoocasa.com or
.com.
Zoocasa.
That's right.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. For all of our listeners, thanks for listening to another episode of the Grit Podcast. Please like this episode and follow the show, and we will see you next week on the Grit Podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast. If you have an interest in a free 7-day trial of Sisu, go to sisu.co, sisu.co. Make sure that you use the coupon code GRIT, that's GRIT, to waive all your setup fees and receive a 10% discount on your subscription. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to subscribe, search GRIT, the Real Estate Growth Mindset, on iTunes, Spotify, or Podbean. And with that, we'll catch you next time. Take care.